Hello, Namaste, and welcome to Agile Exploration Hub. I'm your host Nagesh Deshpande. In today's episode, we are going to discuss Introduction to Agile, a beginner's guide. To speak on this topic, we are welcoming our new speaker, Ritesh Kumar Sinha. Hey, hi, Ritesh.
Hi, Nagesh. It is very nice to see you here. And hello, everybody, to all the folks who will be watching this recording. My
How
name
are
is
you?
Ritesh. Yes, I'm doing good. And I'm glad it is Saturday evening. So I'm stress free from all the workload that I had over the week. And I'm very glad to meet with a noble soul like yourself, who is doing a lot of social activities and as well as spreading out the knowledge of Agile in the communities.
Thanks a lot, Ritesh. So, Ritesh, more about Ritesh, you can connect with him LinkedIn. I will put his LinkedIn details into the description box, guys. And please go through entire video. If you enjoy, please subscribe to my channel, like the video. And today's topic is something which is we are going to discuss, which will help newcomers, so the people who are starting their journey in Agile. So be it you are a development team member, maybe a developer, tester, business analyst, or you just completed Scrum Master certification or product owner, this will help you to go through the entire video. And if you have any comments, suggestions, put it in the comment box, and let's get started with today's video. So, Ritesh, I will directly jump onto the topic now. Uh, So, what was your first thought upon learning about Agile? What is Agile, and look, what was the first thing that come into your mind?
Yeah, okay. So for the audience, let me first introduce myself. So my name is Ritesh Kumar Sinha, and I'm the global practice head for product management as well as Agile at Kimberly Clark, which is a Fortune 500 organization, a 150-year-old organization.
Okay.
So talking about my first thoughts about learning about Agile, for that I'll have to introduce you to my own introduction to Agile, right? So this goes back to the year 2008, and it was like 2 years into my career. And when I actually ended up doing Agile without knowing about it, the product that we were using, the technology behind that was Visual C++. Okay.
Okay. Mm.
And the release processes were very cumbersome. You know, I was sitting on site in a foreign location at the client side, and my responsibilities, I was working as a business analyst. My responsibilities were to create the requirement specifications, okay, and then do a full user acceptance testing. Right? And the analysis, design, development, and the QA, that was done by the offshore unit of my own organization. Okay. And I looked at one of their project plans for our upcoming releases, and it was like a 10-month long project plan. Okay. And before I could even do UAT. So in this 10 month, and this 10, the first month of this 10 month actually started after I had given them the requirement specifications. So it actually started with, design, development or build, right? And then QA. And all of this took 10 months. So I was like, going through the project plan, and I started playing around with the project plan, right? I was trying to, the goal that I had in mind was how can we do this in less than 10 months?
All right.
Okay. And of course, at that time, I didn't have any knowledge about Agile or even something like Agile exists, right? So logically, I was thinking, can I break it into like 5 months work, right? Or can I get like half of the functionality, no matter it takes 4 months, 5 months, or 6 months, right? And then the remaining half of the functionality. Okay. So that's where my thought process went into. And then I was checking with my offshore delivery manager, and he was saying that, look, our stringent waterfall processes, they don't allow for this,
Mm.
right? Yeah. So then I thought, okay, fine. What is the roadblock here? So the roadblock that I discovered was by speaking to him was that they want to completely analyze and design so that they know what they have to build.
Right. Mm,
Okay.
mm, mm,
So I said, all right, fine. Can you do analysis and design in waterfall? And then, delivery, I mean, build and QA, okay, in
mm,
phases? Right. So that was my thought. And without knowing
mm,
like what Agile is. Okay. So playing around with that plan, uh, I adjusted the plan a bit, saying, all right, let's do analysis and design in waterfall. And once they have figured out how they are going to design all the requirements, the specifications for that I had already given to them. When they are going to build them or develop them, right, and test them, can they do it in part by part,
yeah.
right? Or like,
Right.
phases, right?
Phases. Yeah.
So some requirements they will build and test, and then they will give it to me for UAT. And then while I am doing UAT of those requirements, they can build and test the next set of
Next set
requirements.
of requirements.
Yeah. So my idea was that while they give me the first set of requirements, right, and they develop and do a QA and then they give it to me, I
Mm,
can start my UAT. And while I am doing the UAT, they can do the development and QA of the rest of the requirements.
right. Mm,
So through this, uh, we were able to save 2 months of go-to-market time. Why? Because in the previous scenario, they were to do everything and then give me in one go, and then I had to do a UAT, right, which would take me
right.
3 months.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Mm,
here they built and tested half of the requirements, right, and then
mm,
gave it to me. I already started UAT for that half, and while I was doing UAT, they could do the development and testing of the remaining half. And then when they gave me the second half, then I only had to spend time doing the UAT of the second half because the first half was already completed. So there was this overlap time, when they were doing testing, development and testing of the second half, and then at the same time, I was doing UAT of the first half. And this overlap time was 2 months. So we could save 2 months in go-to-market time. So
absolutely. Yeah.
instead of 10 months, we
Mm,
delivered to the customer in 8 months. And everybody on the client side was really surprised and as well as happy because this was never done before.
mm,
Okay. So they came to know that this is a way that we can build and deliver solutions even going forward, right? So I started doing a Google search on what I just did, whether other people around the world have done this or not, right? And what is it called, right? If it even has a name.
mm,
So I Googled and I found that this approach was called as phased development model.
right.
Okay. This was different from waterfall. So the phase development model was basically that you do analysis and design one after the other, full analysis, then full design in waterfall, but develop and test in increments. Okay.
Mm,
So that was my first flavor of understanding about Agile. Because if you look at Agile today, Agile is about iterative and incremental
mm.
development. And phase development model that I had tried at that point of time was a flavor of incremental development. So a portion of Agile, not really Agile, but that was how it was, right?
Awesome. Amazing. Amazing story. This is nice.
So if you see uh, my thoughts about Agile, that was your question.
Mm,
So coming from that phase development, I started learning about Agile and all. And so my first thoughts basically were that Agile enabled us to go to market early because I actually experienced it,
right.
right? Through the phase development model,
True.
we were
True.
able to
Yeah.
save the
The
2 months. And the
right.
second thing was I also got visibility into the progress of work by seeing the software rather than by just getting a report.
Right.
Because even though it was half of the work, but they could give me that half of the work and I could see how that work was done rather than wait for the entire work to be done and then I could just get it, right? So there was no visibility in the previous model, but through Agile, I could experience visibility into the progress of the work. So those are my first thoughts. Go to market early and getting visibility into the progress of the work by seeing the software rather than just getting a report on the progress. And that's what really excited me to learn more and more about Agile and to get into the Agile world.
Awesome, awesome. So, to my viewers, see the journey that Ritesh has just explained, and he nicely explains some of the agile principles as well. So, one of the agile principle is uh, only measure of success is working software. Yeah. So you working software is the measurement of
Is the primary measurement. Yeah.
primary measurement, not just the number. You can send that we have completed 10 user story, we have burned 30 story points, blah blah blah. That will not make sense to it. But when you say that these 10 user story is is giving this software or this functionality of your application, mobile app, website, whatever it may be, that will make more sense to, first of all, product owners, UAT testers, or even directly to the customer. So always keep in mind. Very, very nice discussion. I'm really enjoying this. So moving on, you already explained it very nicely. You have already given enough example, but I still want to hear a few more examples. Can you provide few examples on how Agile improved your work?
Yeah. So if I talk about my work basically encompasses driving product and agile transformation in my organization.
Hmm,
Okay. So this means, creating roadmap for the organization, making sure that I'm helping the leaders to prioritize which are the product lines and product areas where they want to start applying agile, right?
hmm, hmm.
So if I see how agile has improved my work, it has helped me be laser focused on customer centricity.
Right.
Okay. Because using agile, I am basically able to help my customers prioritize the right things and also help them build the right product, right? With
Right.
collaboration and frequent feedback from the customers.
Right.
So personally, Agile has given me the flexibility to prioritize those functional areas that I need to work with leaders to transform, where I need to deploy Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, and how I have to adjust their priorities and their allocation based on the feedback from my stakeholders on how the transformation is progressing.
Hmm. Nice. Very nice. That's nicely put up. Yeah. So, uh, moving on to next question. So new people who are learning agile and all that. So they are only confused between only ceremonies or something like that. Yeah. But any myths do you want to burst in front of them? So there are few myths in the market, and do you want to remove those myths from these people who are learning agile?
Yeah. So the first thing is if you look at Agile, right?
Hmm, hmm,
The first source of learning Agile is the Agile Manifesto,
hmm. You're right.
right? Which has clearly defined 4 values and 12 principles. But people get so bogged up in those values and principles that they don't read what is written just above the 4 principles. So if any of you, and this is for my audience here, if any of you go and open the Agile Manifesto, everybody talks about the 4 values and 12 principles. But if you
Right.
read the paragraph just before the 4 values, there's a very, very important thing that's mentioned there. And that says that we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value. And then they talk about what are those 4 values.
Hmm,
So people get so bogged down by the values and principles that they forget that we are still uncovering better ways of developing software. The 4 values and 12 principles by themselves are not enough.
exactly.
We are still uncovering better ways every day. And even in the coming days, we will still develop and uncover new ways of building software. So as a newbie, this is what my advice would be, is that don't get, caught up in the mechanics or the literature of Agile. Okay. The biggest myth is that Agile has not yet solved all problems, or it doesn't have the ability to solve all problems. It just gives you capabilities to think in ways which you can use to solve your problems, right?
Right.
And if I have to take an executional example of this, then I can simply say that many people think, or the biggest myth that I have encountered is that Agile means no planning,
No planning.
right? And many people assume about Agile being synonymous with basically driving headfirst into execution without any plan. Whereas Agile is a lot about iterative planning. The
Right.
plan is just more flexible and continuous
Right.
compared to like a rigid plan or an upfront plan. And the teams, they, to my earlier point, right, assessing the progress of the working software. So as they assess the progress of the working software, they are supposed to adapt the plan. And so Agile is all about planning.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. So again, one more point I wanted to add on the lack of planning as well as lack of documentation. So people think agile is like no documentation. It's not true. You need documentation, but enough documentation. You need not to, put heavy documentation. Like in the first experience, what Ritesh mentioned, what if your team would have designed a 100, 200 page documentation and gave it to Ritesh for do UAT testing? What is he going to do with that documentation, guys? Nothing. Or I'll come to a realistic example. You all of us have mobile phones or electronic gadgets. They do provide documentation. Small. How many of you read it? No, we directly jump onto the gadget, we open it, we explore it. So what does it mean? That we need to we need working something which is working. But however, if something stop working, something is not working as to your expectations, you have to refer to the documentation. So minimal or whatever the documentation is required, it's required. So this is one more myth I wanted to add from what Ritesh said. So Ritesh, going back to our previous example, that in waterfall or in traditional days, like prior to, like I also started working in IT from 2006. Prior to that, okay, I used to work with various kind of setups. So developer sitting in one building, tester sitting in another building, maybe developer sitting in India, tester sitting somewhere else, some kind of setup. But now how Agile has helped us in this, teamwork change, or what kind of collaboration has improved? Because I remember I used to get email that software development is completed, here is the build, you start testing. I
Yeah.
never saw a developer. So now being, I know, but I want to you to explain how it is Agile has changed the dynamics of teamwork.
Yeah. So Nagesh, as you mentioned, right, like you used to get email that, development has been done, now you begin testing. So
Right.
there was this
Mm.
wall
Right.
between business analysts, developers, between developers, testers,
Testers.
right? And even between testers and even between the business peoples, right?
Right. Right.
Who are doing UAT and as well as providing feedback and all of that, right? So if you look at Agile, it has basically broken that wall. Okay.
Mm.
So now you see a cohesive team working together. It's a cross-functional team is what it is called as in Agile, which basically encourages developers, testers, designers, business stakeholders, analysts, etc., all of them, right, to work closely together.
Correct.
So what it has caused is it has caused the removal of those traditional silos and breaking of that wall, and it has improved communication. The second thing it has done is it has brought in a culture of joint accountability.
Mm. Right.
Previously, if I am done with the development, my job is done.
Right.
If I have finished testing, my job is done. I don't even care whether, the customer, the software meets the customer's requirements, or does it solve the problem of the customer, right? I am done with that. My testing job is done, right? My development job is done. My business analysis, my requirement specifications are done. My UAT is done. That was the culture. Agile has brought in a culture of accountability, joint accountability, where everybody is aligned together and they are focused on the goal. And the goal is basically, how do we solve the problem for the customer?
Right.
How does what we build serves the customer? How does it help the customer perform their transactions, solve the problem that they want to do, help them move forward, right? That is now the holistic goal of all of these people together. So that's the second thing. And the third thing I've seen is the difference of, instead of having like a micromanagement or a command and control kind of culture within the team, it has caused some leaders to step back into a role where they support and coach the team rather than dictate them as,
Dictate that.
right, exactly, as to who should do what, or how should they plan the work, or how should they deliver the work, and things like that, right?
Right.
So instead, it has given them more empowerment and accountability.
Great. Yeah, that's right. I agree on the last point, to be honest. I've seen lot of coaches, lot of scrum masters, who have good experience. They come up and they said, okay, I don't care how you are doing it. How part is your. Okay. Let's do, you put your input, do your best. I'm not going to, you know, put my nose into your job, because you are the knowledge worker, you are the experienced people. Let's do it. So that kind of freedom. And another thing, we are bringing another episode which is, on psychological safety. So I'll touch bit based on that. So these kind of things also these leaders are bringing to the organization, where if they have a psychological safe environment, people are taking risk, they are doing more innovative work, they are taking challenges, and they're putting a lot of, so these changes are happening due to agile, adoption of agile. Well said, Ritesh, very nicely explained. So now coming back to something which is, we want to discuss, where our viewers, our audience should avoid doing it. So for an example, there are a few common mistakes. So one such common mistake I will say, you can add few furthermore. So if someone is new to agile, they want to do agile, and first time what happens is, I observed that they want to change everything in just one day, right? So this is one mistake that I observed. Don't do that. But Ritesh, you want to add few mistakes that people make when they try to do agile.
Yeah. So most people who are new to Agile, they get caught up in the mechanics of how to execute
Right.
Agile. In the case of Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, these people, they get caught up in the mistake of how to install Agile. They want to install Agile in the team.
Right, right.
Okay. So the moment someone says Agile to a Scrum Master or an Agile coach, okay. And I'm also talking about myself many years ago.
Absolutely.
We start
Absolutely.
imagining sprints and Scrum events and dashboards and Jira and ADO and all of that. So what are we doing? We are starting to install and or execute Agile. We forget the big picture about the customer. We think that Agile is the goal, whereas we should think that what is it that we are trying to help the customer or the team achieve through Agile as a means, not the goal. Okay. We also forget about the organizational hierarchy. Okay. Like different organizations are structured differently, whether it allows for you to have cross-functional teams or not. How can you start imagining installing agile with sprints and all of that if your organizational hierarchy and structure itself limits all of this, right? They also forget about the culture of the organization and how
Hmm.
it can come in our way of simple things like, for example, collaborative planning or even partnering with the customer. If the customer is seen as a boss, or if the customer sees you only as an order taker, and if they are not able to give you time, you're not going to be able to build the product with customer collaboration.
Right.
Right. One of our agile values is, customer collaboration over
Collaboration.
contract negotiation. Now, if the customer is himself or herself is not willing to give you time, how will you collaborate with the customer?
Correct.
Right. So we have to think about all of this, right? Rather than go and install or think about installing agile. Okay. So in several companies, business is still sees IT as a factory which produces products for them.
Right.
And the more and more I am experiencing in this industry, I'm seeing that IT people themselves are used to thinking like that we are the order taker. We are a factory. They
Right.
don't want to get out of it and partner with the customer to build the product. They want to stay IT. So if the mindset is like that, you will not be able to install agile. All you will be able to do is mechanistic agile, which is okay. This is the day we'll have our sprint planning. This is the duration of our sprint. Everybody get into a daily scrum, right? On this day, we'll have a sprint review and sprint retrospective, and that's all. This cycle will continue. But it is not going to give you incremental, iterative delivery and all of that, right?
Correct.
So, all of this itself, I mean, all of these things are basically the mistakes that any new person can do. But you have to think about the big picture rather than, start rather than installing agile.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. One of my coaches has given very nice term to what Ritesh said. He calls it a taco factory. Tools and ceremony only.
Yeah.
Taco. Taco is an abbreviation of tools and ceremony only. So if you are as a scrum master or agile coach, you are only focusing on tools, any tool that you're using, and only ceremony, you're not doing agile. You're a taco factory. So see the big picture, as Ritesh said. Very nicely mentioned, Ritesh. Very nice examples again. So moving ahead. Now, um, you know, all these new people, mm, again, how they can improve, how they can grow, you know, their knowledge, their experience. So, or they can increase their learning through the books, hands-on experience, maybe, or any other approaches.
Yeah. So see, the thing is, if you go and ask 10 people today, and I'm talking about experienced people,
Hmm,
about what is it, just ask them this question, what is agile? That's all. You will get 10 answers.
correct.
Somebody will say that, it is an iterative project management methodology. Somebody will say that, it is about partnering with your customers to build products. Okay. So you will see different definitions. The first and the most important thing, if we are talking about improving our knowledge of Agile, is to have a common understanding of what Agile is.
Correct. Hmm,
Imagine there are, say, five coaches, Agile coaches, or even five Scrum masters in the same company, right?
hmm,
Working on different teams. Now, if everybody talks about different definitions of Agile, then the customer will be confused, the team will be confused,
correct.
right? So you need to have a common definition, and it has to be simple.
Hmm,
And you should be able to explain Agile without using the word Agile. So
important.
that's I think that is I think is the most important thing. Okay. So what basically is Agile in its basic simplest sense is it is the ability to move fast with ease. That's all.
That's all. Yeah.
Okay. Now here there are two keywords. One is move fast. The second is with ease. Okay. So everybody thinks only about moving fast. You're agile, that means you move fast. But people forget that it is a lot about moving fast with ease. And to give you an example, and there will be some role play here if you're okay with that, Nagesh.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So let me ask you this question, like, can you think of an animal that can move fast with ease?
With ease, like cheetah.
Cheetah? Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
And then
absolutely.
yeah, even in dog or horse.
Yeah. So the cheetah is an excellent example. And
uh,
another example is the monkey.
Monkey. Yeah,
Now, a monkey cannot run as fast as the cheetah. Okay.
right.
But the ease with which it can move from one branch to the other is the same ease with which a cheetah can change direction while running.
Correct.
And this is what people have to understand, that it is not only the ability to move fast, but it is the ability to move fast with ease. So when we are talking about agile transformation, it basically means making an organization or building capabilities in that organization so that it can move fast with ease,
Ease.
right? And in order to make that ease, you have to make your organization structure, culture, principles, practices, operational hierarchy, collaboration, all of that, so that it can become easy to move fast. And this is why agile transformation is so difficult, because it's not that move fast piece that is difficult. It is the with ease piece that is difficult. So if once you have that common understanding of what agile is and you're able to explain agile without using the term agile, then you know agile.
Right.
And then now you can take the next step and say, okay, what is the definition of agile in the context of software development?
Mm.
Now here again, you cannot have different definitions, that it is an iterative approach and this and that. It is very simple. Okay. You cannot define agile without talking about the agile manifesto. Because what
Correct.
is agile if you don't even say talk about the manifesto? You can come up with a number of definitions of agile, but if you don't include the agile manifesto in that definition, then it is not agile.
Mm.
Because the way all of us understand agile is that it has come from that principles and values
Values and principles.
that are
Yes.
in the
Mm.
manifesto.
Mm.
So for me, there is only one definition of agile. And in my organization, everybody uses that one single definition of agile. Okay.
Mm.
Which is basically an iterative and incremental approach to build digital solutions by following the values and principles of the Agile Manifesto. That's all.
Great. So, and will you recommend any books or any
Yes, I
anything to
will.
read? Yeah.
So in terms of books, I will recommend, the book by Jeff Sutherland, which says, Scrum, the art of doing twice the work in half the time.
Right.
There is this user stories applied book by Mike Kahn.
Mike Conn. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
there is another book by Jonathan Rasmussen. That book is called as The Agile Samurai. So these are some of the books. And then you can also refer, you can start small. So you can
Mm.
go to online courses on platforms like Coursera, Udemy, even LinkedIn Learning,
Yeah.
and just watch small videos. Even this series of videos that you are doing, that
You're
itself
right.
is a great learning platform. And then in order to practice, I will say start at a small scale, like for example, take a personal project or a small team initiative. Use some tools like, Jira, Trello to start practicing work by organizing it into, agile, right? How you'll break it down into sprints and track progress, collaborate with those people. So, and then also I will suggest to attend meetups and
Okay.
around that are happening. Right. So then you get to learn more and more about what Agile is.
Great. So yes, absolutely agree here. So community involvement is very essential, guys. Those who if you are learning, so go to communities, meetups, talk to different people. Like he mentioned, talk to various people. How they are solving this problem. So go with the very small problems to them. If you go to same problem to three different people, they will give you three different solutions. Okay, and think which will help in your context. Context is important because the three people might give you a solution without having a context, but in your context which one fits, try to go and don't try to change everything in one day. Something which is, try to do 1% change, don't try to change everything. So these are some of the things that you have to keep in mind. Still, one last question, something which is very fundamental, very basic thing that a new scrum master or a new agile coach should do when they're starting their journey. Fundamental, very basic change.
Yeah. Yeah. So the principle, I'll first talk about the principle, because if I talk about the practice, people will get caught up in practice. As I was
Right.
telling, right? People
Mm.
start installing Agile. So the principle is continuous improvement.
Right.
Okay. And the practice associated with that principle is retrospectives.
Right.
So that practice of retrospective basically means that at regular intervals, the team comes together and they reflect on how to
Right.
become more effective. Then they tune their ways of working, their practices, their collaboration, and their interactions with the customers, right? And that's how they adjust their behavior and make continuous improvement.
Great. Amazing discussion, Ritesh. Ritesh, once again, really thank you for joining us today. It was wonderful to discuss all these points. So, guys, to my audience, if you watch this entire video, if you liked it, please hit the like button, share with your friends, add the comments. Uh, we'll do more episodes, similar episodes on similar topics, which will help you to grow in your agile career. So, Ritesh, any closing thoughts from your side?
No, I just want to thank you so much for having me here. You're doing a great work, and it was very nice to partner with you. And we should even partner going forward. And because it is very, very important that now that Agile has become so commercialized,
Hmm.
and you will see that people, different organizations have come up with different certifications, and people are running after those certifications, and they have actually fundamentally forgotten what Agile is. Okay.
Correct. Hmm.
So it is very important for us to give that message to the community that look, all of these things that get created, they get created by people who know that we are moving away from the fundamentals, and we are caught up in the mechanistic way of executing or installing Agile, right? And which is where from where we have to get out of, right, and focus on the basics, and only that will help us scale, right, Agile
Absolutely.
practices.
Great.
So glad that I was very fortunate to basically be part of this discussion, and being able to work with you to pass on this message to everybody out there who wants to learn basics and fundamentals, and who is new to Agile, and people who want to course correct their approach to Agile.
Great. 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 Thanks a lot. So, guys, subscribe to my channel, Agile Exploration Hub, add a comment. And once again, thank you, Ritesh, for being here.
Thank you so
Bye
much.
bye.
Bye.